to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. And in this episode, it's just Owen and I, and we're talking about the subject of prepping your collection before a big trip. Some of the tips and tricks that we do before we head out away from our collection for a week can be very stressful. We also hit on a question that we got in from Jake Porter about switching carpets from live to frozen thawed. So we talk about what are some tips and tricks when it comes to that. We also hit on some of the things that caught our eye over the past couple of weeks in the reptile world, along with some breeding season updates and a whole bunch more. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. Tonight, it's just Owen and myself, and we got some topics to talk about. We're at, 480?
I got a lot of problems with you people. No, it's not that episode.
489. We're at 489. Wow. Almost at 500.
Do we contract negotiation at 500 or no?
Nah, I'm thinking it's probably like 550.
When will the contract negotiations happen?
These interns cost a
Never.
So we'll talk about various things. And one, we're doing this show on a Sunday, which is out of the norm for us, but I didn't want to skip a week as I'm going to be leaving for San Diego Monday morning.
I told Melissa that I'm going to be unbearable this week because I'm gonna be so happy that they're finding stuff. I'm gonna be so proud of my guys out there like going nuts. And then Justin found the tortoises already on his way. Yeah. And I'm like, God damn it. Damn it. And then I'm like, just so you know, I'm going to be unbearable. And she's like, complain to Eric. I'm like, no. I
won't give him the pleasure.
No. This is what you signed up for. I'm going to bitch and I'm going to be wandering around the house complaining and I'm going to be unbearable and you're going to have to deal. And she's like, no. And so, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know. The last trip you guys went on, I felt the same way.
Exactly.
It always sucks being left behind. What are you going to miss out on? And the cool thing for me, besides finding the animals, obviously that's really the highlight of the whole thing. But it's just a fun time. You just screw around. You don't worry about what you're eating or when you're eating or what you're drinking,
how you're eating or where you are. Well, that's the thing where it's like, unlike any other day of the week where you're like, if I eat this, I'm going to be sitting at my desk for the rest of the day. Now it's like, Rob's going to be like, eat this and then go up this mountain. So that's why I always watch what Rob eats. If Rob eats something small, it means that there's a mountain involved in about 10 minutes. Do not get the burrito the size of a small baby. You're like,
So, I thought a good topic. We've both been through it. I'm sure people that go herping go through it as well. Is when you go on a herp trip for a week or so, sometimes a little bit longer, 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks. But your animals, making sure that they're okay. Like the night before for me is always like, oh my gosh, it reminds me of what I used to do before you would go to a reptile show, like when we would go to Tinley or something like that. But for me, what's different this time is this is the first time I'm leaving with lizards.
That is true. That's a different, different thing. Yeah.
So luckily I was able to train Dory to be able to feed said lizards. And surprisingly, and I told her no, just because I don't know. I wanted to get done as fast as I could, but she's like, can I help you clean the snakes? And I was like, what?
I mean,
who are you? And
who are you? Where's my wife? Yeah. This is a test, isn't it? It's a test. Who are you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, making sure everybody has water, making sure that, Everybody is doesn't have like a meal that was left behind.
That is rule number one. Rule number one is if you're gonna go away for 2 weeks, don't be like, I shall now feed them the day before you leave. Because even if everybody eats,
yes,
that is when 3 of them puke. Like if you're like tomorrow, I am going to my father-in-law's this weekend. So I'm going this weekend. My final day to feed is tomorrow, where I will feed some of the animals that I need to feed tomorrow. And then after that, they're not eating. Like, I am not going to throw food at them right when I'm about to walk out the door to be gone for several days. So, because then I'm in New York and I get a phone call from my father who's going like, hey, something smells downstairs. And then I got to find a reptile person in my area to go over there to figure out what the fuck's happening. You're like, somebody dead? Is somebody puked? What's going on? So, that's rule number one. Rule number two, like you said, fresh water. But that's rule number two. Go through and give everybody fresh water right before you go. But a little hack to that is do not fill the water bowls up to the fucking brim.
Okay. Because
they won't drink all that water, number one. Number two, if they flip it, they're not sitting in like an inch of water like the entire time you're gone. Give them less than you normally would give them, but give them enough to get you past. So if you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, fill it normal. If you're going to be gone for a week, do a little bit less. If you're going to be gone for a couple days, just give them enough to get to the couple days. Because the first thing you do when you get home is check them out. So
it's it's definitely, I like to check, just give a spot check to temperatures, just look at thermostats,
check your computer systems,
make sure all that stuff is in line.
And we're in this part of the season right now.
Yes.
Separate your
tough.
Right.
Separate your pairs during March.
Right. Separate your pairs. Nobody needs to be together for this point. If you miss out on a clutch because you went herping, who gives a damn? The other thing
I am worried about that.
The other thing is that if you have a female that is getting ready to lay eggs, she will do it when you are gone or the day you leave. Like that is how it goes. Of course it does.
Yes. That's why my girls have been training with maternal incubation just in case.
My girls have been training with maternal incubation. But so if you're having somebody come to check on the snakes, having that like teenage relative that's kind of interested in snakes might not be a good one this time because they might not be experienced enough to pull eggs. Or, if she like, let's say if you walk in and say she's wrapped around a bunch, but she left a couple outliers, like somebody's got to know that they got to grab the outliers, but then the other ones that she's wrapped, fuck it, leave them with her. Like it doesn't matter, but
I don't think I've ever had that situation. I haven't run into where I've had a female. Well, this is the first year where I'm hoping that I can sort of like, wait till I come back. A week isn't really going to make that much of a difference. I mean, for Christ's sake, it snowed today, man.
Yeah, and I'm driving. I'm like, wait a minute, what is happening? And of course, I'm sitting here.
We were shipping soon,
dude. Yesterday was like it was raining like crazy, and I'm like, there we go, rain in March, right after prelays, right close to due dates. I'm gonna be buried in eggs come tonight. Nothing. I'm like, fuck all you all. Like this is what you're supposed to do,
right? And I'm worried about like the whole diamond thing. So I'm hoping that I don't miss a window of some sort. I don't think a week would be a window so much.
You want to sit there and you say you don't think a week would make it or break it, but then like you find all the people who are like, I put them together when I was cleaning the tub and they bred like crazy. Yeah, and they just happened to have eggs. It's like you might miss the window, but you need to be okay with that. Is that you've chosen the herp trip with the potential of missing a window with breeding. Now, if you had other people living in your house that you could trust with this kind of stuff, Like, you could potentially leave them together, but if something goes wrong, that's another thing you need to be okay with.
Yeah, I think I could probably get my sister or my dad to be able to sort of pull off putting it together.
I mean,
But
the thing
I
is
would
that,
worry about that they would just set and forget it, and then
right now,
trouble happens.
my thing is that with most of pairings, now I'll separate the pairings I got going on, which most of them are colubrid anyway. A lot of the Python carpet stuff is we're close to done.
Yeah.
Except for like breadlie. But it's just one of those things where, and the white lips and stuff like that, I'll separate because we're leaving Friday and we're back Sunday. So I'm literally separating for day tops.
Okay.
Mine, it doesn't matter. I'm just doing that for my own thing. So I don't have to worry about it. But if you're gone for even a week, I wouldn't be too concerned about separating them for a week or even necessarily leaving them together for a week.
Yeah, if they were together,
right,
I would feel more confident with it. But the fact that they weren't together,
you can't
do the initial.
You can't do intros and then bail.
Yeah,
if they're together and nothing's going wrong,
right?
I would probably feel confident leaving them together. But again, that is something you need to be okay with. Is that you are going to be somewhere where you may not be reachable, and something may happen. Like, what is it? We this week we watched, there were pictures of that one guy's pair of Papuan pythons.
Yes, I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah,
you need to be okay with that. But of course, these are things you're already okay with because you're starting to try to breed. You've accepted that stuff could go wrong, but now you're just not going to be able to see it while it happens. You have to come home and find it.
Scott Schmidt.
Yeah.
He says he was hesitant about putting up the post. He was afraid of getting crap for it. And I was like, oh, man.
More props to this guy for actually, because you know what? I think shit like this happens more often than people like to admit. Just nobody wants to step up and say that this happened to me because they're afraid that people will chastise. And of course, I guarantee you, some asshole is like, clearly, your male wasn't big enough. And I know.
He was 10 foot.
I know because I have bred Burmese pythons. And Burmese pythons, as you know, are nothing like Papuan pythons. And it's like that. It's like, all right, well, go fuck yourself. Like, a 10-foot long male.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Come on.
Man.
I would not have pegged that. I would have been in the same boat. I would have done the same thing. Yeah. So for him to throw out there and be like, hey, guys, this happened to me with a 10-foot long male is good for him, because I guarantee you half the people would have buried their heads in the sand and not even said anything about it. But that is terrifying.
Yeah,
I don't want Papuans.
I know blackheads get that rap, but I think that's kind of a myth. I think that's kind of a myth because you don't really hear about them cannibalizing each other. They'll eat reptiles, right? Yeah. So I think we've just taken that to the extreme and saying, they'll eat each other.
I think what happened is somebody put in a really small male. We're talking like 32-month-old carpet-sized male blackhead to try to get it to breed faster, and it got eaten. And they were like, "Oh my god, they cannibalize each other!" Like, well, no shit. Like, it was so. Yeah. I don't think. Do I think that you still need to remain vigilant and hesitant about these kinds of things? Of course,
100%.
Do I think you have the same problem with like two blackheads of the same size? No. I don't think so. Of course, I'm saying this from someone who has never kept a blackhead and never bred blackheads, but this is just going on from what I've heard. I will say that also I've never kept Papuan pythons and I've never bred them, but I feel like it's more of a
dude. There's something about Papuan pythons that are no joke.
I think it's more of a thing to fear with them than it is with anything else.
They are a python. To me, I've handled retics.
Yes.
I almost was eaten by Matt's retic. I've handled
That
berms.
story gets worse and worse every time you tell it. It's like, and then it locked eyes with me, and I knew it was coming. Matt was unconscious on the floor.
No,
it's like, wait,
yeah. Yes,
it was me and my trusty Bowie knife. It's like, wait, dude.
He just saw it coming and fainted. The big guy, Matt, he faints. The little guy, Eric, he's
it was me. And I ripped my shirt off, put my Bowie knife in my mouth, and I said, come on. And it's like, well, that is not what happened, dude.
Were you there? I don't know. It sounds like you got a first-hand account. I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying, I've dealt with big scrubs before.
Right.
Nothing has been has been anything like a big, like when I had that big adult female.
You had that one girl,
dude.
And dude, like we say big, she wasn't even an adult size. Like
she was probably 8 foot.
Yeah, she was big, maybe? But she was an adult. No. She wasn't done. She was, dude. She made me nervous, and that's hard.
Yeah, it was.
She was dark.
No joke,
too.
Man. No joke.
She was like when I saw her the one time. She was dark. She was kind of going into a shed, and she was like, open the cage and I will end you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. But dude, like I think, do you remember when we went to Keith's and his female bull and I like struck me in the chest with its head? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh Jesus! Like it's very much that I think Papuan pythons are on that kind of a level of their heads are just these bricks, and then the rest of them are just huge, and they're basically bulldogs, and I don't know, man. I always wanted to kind of try to mess around with them, but I think with them and ring pythons, from what I'm hearing, is cannibalism is something that you really need to watch out for.
Yeah. Ring pythons seem to be one of those. I wonder if that's affects some of their, it's the thing we always talk about. Like why are certain species in the hobby and why are some not in the hobby? And we always equate it to like, because nobody cared and nobody bred them, which, yeah, I guess to a certain extent that's somewhat true. But like, I think that more of that, me and Rob have talked about this many times. It's like, I think that's a little bit of a myth in as far as like, yeah, they kind of disappeared because nobody was breeding it, but why was nobody breeding it?
Because it's a hellish white lip like creature that eats each other. Like, I get it.
I think for your average herper, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, especially somebody that's getting into breeding, and then you have people that have been doing it for a long time. I mean, you really have to love that species in order to try to work with it and deal with that part of it.
Dude,
I think for somebody that's into ball pythons or carpets, where that is like, I mean, not saying that it never happened, because I've had snakes get other snakes, but not to eat it. Well, I think it was more of a feeding response and said, oh shit, this is not what I thought it was.
Let's put it this way. I have never pulled two carpets apart, knock on wood, during breed trial. Like I've never pulled a carpet python that has bit down on another one and wrapped it up.
It's not fun.
Of course not. I've done it with white lips. I've done it with white lips again. And I've done it with Cali King snakes. Yeah. And hognose. Yeah.
Now white lips, they don't really get as much of that rap as ring pythons.
Right, because I think it was a feed response thing, because they did eventually let themselves go. But
yeah.
Plus, I think when my blacks did it, it was because I think there were two males. But I think, and again, all snake species has to do is do it once, and then they're pegged. I mean, what is it? Was it children's python babies you can't put together, or Antaretia babies?
Oh yeah.
That's like all of a sudden there'll be one of them in there and being like, I ate the other four. It's like, okay, cool.
The sucky thing about that is not so much the fact. I mean, yes, it sucks. It sucks that the female ate the male, but typically in those situations, that
she's dead too.
The female is going to die too when she regurges the snake.
It's like, listen, if I ate 200 something pounds of beef, I deserve to be dead. Like it is.
No hamburger eating contest for you.
If I eat my weight of hamburger, I expect to be dead. Like
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
If I'm alive afterwards, I don't want to be. Like it is. So for what them to eat something that size, you know, I mean, that's what always happens with Cali Kings. I was at Foley, I had a pair of Callies, and the one female ate the male, female died.
Now, yeah, really?
Yeah. You can't expect.
Now, what's weird about this kind of goes against my theory of what I was saying about the ring pythons, because Cali Kings are pretty, you know, they're pretty popular in the hobby.
Yes.
So is that as much of a thing as it is with the other ones, or is it?
Dude, like it was
once
always
in a while it happens, or
I think every once in a while, and I think king snakes are just. I would want to say
they're
this.
Snake eaters, yeah.
Right? They're snake eaters, and I would say that eventually. Here's the thing: is that you want to get into the whole point of passing of genetics, where it's like, well, which ones pass their genetics? The ones that didn't eat each other. Oh, right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right. So the ones in the hobby don't see each other as food because we've bred them so many times. Right. But those first couple ones are one from the wild. I mean, why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And why we keep seeing that with certain other species is because we're still readily importing that shit. So these are stuff like that. I
wonder with that thought, I wonder if, like, now that I'm thinking of Cal Kings, right? They have a specific season to when they breed. So I would wonder if part of the whole idea of like why they wouldn't necessarily do that in the wild is because they sort of have like, you know, they have this window where they won't eat each other, or they won't attack each other, or whatever.
There's a truce,
it's sort of like a peace treaty. Yes,
peace treaty is ceasefire. Everybody breed, and everybody's got 3 weeks, and then we're back to killing each other. It's like, okay,
eating each other.
I mean, maybe
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe with an Indonesian species like a ring python, right, or apodora, maybe because there's not really like a set. Well, there's a set time that they would breed probably in the wild. It's not like they're breeding all year long, but like, you know, I find it difficult. I think we talked about this on the original episode we did with Mark Hager, but like the Indonesian species of pythons seem to be more driven to breed based off of, you know, barometric pressure type of deals.
Right.
So like rainfall, stuff like that. So I wonder if like it, and again, I don't know how to phrase this right, but like, because we have such a difficult time in the hobby, sort of like nailing those species down consistently. I mean, some we do, others, but I would say the majority of them we don't. You know, like I'm thinking of like Maclots and Savus and, you know, I guess retics are pretty bred, pretty. I
think they're pretty
reliable
much knocked down.
In the time frame. But you know, I don't know. I just the thought that maybe there is a window where they won't eat each other, but because we're trying to put them in our window of time,
we miss it. Yeah,
we miss it, and we put them together, and they're in feeding mode rather than in breeding mode. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I would also say that I heard with king cobras that they will approach and the male will attempt to breed. And then if the female isn't in the mood to breed, the male just kills her and eats her if he can. Which.
Wait, the male eats the female?
Yeah, it's kind of a shitty thing to do. I think I saw one episode, one scientific documentary where that's where it was, where the male came over to attempted to breed the female. Female wasn't breeding, so he killed her and ate her. And it's like, holy shit. Like, so I don't know what,
man.
Yeah,
Nature's
fucking brutal, but it's like, so I don't know if that's it. I don't know if just because in captivity, maybe the female has not fully cycled. So putting these two animals together, there is no, he's not looking to her to potentially breed. She's not looking to him to potentially breed. So what are you doing here? Clearly we're here because you've wandered into my territory and yeah, you're big enough. I'll take a shot or, you know, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I will say this. I was more worried about breeding my Callies when I was much younger than I am now. And dude, Cali breeding, like your female California king snake, she's going to look tore up by the time you're done breeding, because the male will bite down on her neck to hold her still.
Yeah, man. And I would imagine the first time you're seeing that, you're like, oh my God.
Sweet Jesus. Like, yeah, it's happened. And then you pull them apart. And it's like, oh, I didn't get any Cali eggs. Well, of course you fucking didn't. Like, it was.
The California king snake breeders are holding that information back. So everybody freaks out.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh,
I forgot
God.
to tell you that.
Throw them in a bucket of water. And they're like, what? It's. So she'll look pretty tore up. So it's just one of those things where it's kind of why I've started leapfrogging my female 1 year on, 1 year off, because I think the last year he bit up her neck real bad, and then he bit her someplace down on the side and actually cut her a little bit. So you got to watch out for that kind of shit.
So like when they're biting each other from breeding, is that something that you have to like give medical attention to, or is it just
it's
not really?
Well, let's put it this way. You shouldn't, but if she doesn't want it and he is like holding her down or biting pretty hard, like they can, last year she had a nice sized cut on her. And this year I found out that I had I thought I had 2.2 blonde hognose.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. I have 3.1.
3.1?
Yes, I do. And,
how did I know that was you were going to say that?
And there was one clear winner and there was one clear loser, but both boys took shots and deep cuts, and like ones that Melissa and I had to flush them out. We had to put them on some antibiotics for a couple weeks and stuff like that. So, I mean, the snakes their teeth are sharp, and I think we as people, or at least us in what we keep, bites can be bad, but they're not like, we don't have like the deep cuts and lacerations and stuff that you see for like retic bites and stuff like that, or what retics will do to each other. I mean,
good God, man.
Dude, that's something else where people don't really talk about. People like, retics won't eat each other. No, but they will gut each other. Like, it is putting that, and that is just, you imagine trying to wrestle two 20-foot snakes apart? No way. And I mean, and then you're talking about, that is not something you can deal with at home. That's major surgery. Some of the damage that retics will do to each other.
Yeah, I would imagine that stitches and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and that's potentially a snake dead. Like, even after you spend all that crap ton of money at the vet getting it stitched up, antibiotics and all that stuff, it still might end up dead just because of the stress. It might never eat again. So
amazing thing is, like, typically though, if a reptile, if I'm going to go by pythons, but I would say all reptiles probably fall into this. I know crocodilians do as well, but like, providing that they're healthy, and they have access to what they need as far as heat or, basking spots, all these kind of stuff, that they can heal themselves, dude, pretty quickly.
Those hogs already look fine after that, and really, I was just we cleaned out the wounds, we put some topical stuff on there, and then we shot them up with some Baytril for a little bit, and then that was it. They were done. They look great now. I mean,
the beauty of having a fiance. It's
not the main reason. It's not the main. It's not the main reason I'm marrying her. It's one of them.
But it's a bonus.
It's one of them. It's a good one.
Most people will be like, oh yeah,
she's the chief medical officer, and we keep arguing about what falls under her purview and what falls under mine. Like the new rough scale python is very mean. And I said that's a medical thing because it needs medical attention because it's a psychotic animal. Right. And she's like, that's hair, that's care, that's handling, that's husbandry. I'm like, no, it's medical. So we've gone back and forth.
So you're in
part of my bride price.
It is. Thank you, dear. I hate it that you can hear me.
Yes.
Not loud. It's normal.
Yes.
Anyway. But yeah, still arguing about that one.
Okay, fair enough. Hope you clear it up before the wedding. So
no, I'm just gonna get. I'm gonna get ripped into by a rough scale python, because you and I both know if I get eggs of those rough scale pythons, I'm gonna have that split couple seconds of, oh oh my God. And then I'm going to run in there and then realize that this is a pissed off female. And now I'm just going to get bit in the face. It's like,
it's like touching the hot pot on the stove. Like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah, I'll go grab it.
It hurts.
What did I do?
Why did I do this?
Damn it.
It's going to be one of those moments. Do whatever you want to me. Just don't hurt the eggs. Like, it's fine.
So we did have a question that we'll get into in a bit.
We kind of went around a little bit on a little bit of
yeah. We're jumping all around.
We were talking about
snakes eating each other.
Yeah, we're
setting
talking
up a
about
collection before you go.
Getting animals ready before you go.
Well, that's an important part. Not having them eat each other.
Not eat each other. Like, so clean water, clean cages.
Yep.
Don't feed anybody, and then also check equipment. Have somebody potentially come by, not necessarily check on all the snakes, but just to do an eyeball, see if anything smells, see if anybody flooded their cages. If you have females that are about to lay, pull the water bowls. If you're going to be gone for a couple days, if you're going to be gone for a couple weeks, just have minimum water in there, because I'm going to be gone for a day and I'm pulling their water bowls because I know what would happen. They'd all lay in their water.
100%.
So
never would do it any other time.
No. So, and then other than that, man, just understand that this is part of keeping.
Yeah, so it's always good. I'm going to emphasize the whole having somebody to sort of check in just to make sure that things are okay.
Have multiple somebodies. Have a list. Have your first person that can come by and check out. Then have your emergency contacts.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at my list and we're down to Matt at this point, which is terrifying. So it's like,
well, I was going to bring up like that happened when we were in Australia in 2019. I remember we were staying at that. What was that? The place where we had the really good breakfast.
Oh yeah, it was the
by Nerlangi.
I should know because I have the metal cup is where I keep my toothbrush and prep. It's the it's a Yellow Creek,
maybe
Yellow Water. She's reading it from the bathroom. Yes, Yellow Water.
Yellow Water. Okay, so we were staying there, and you were still like kind of sick at that point.
I was dead. Yes.
We got a call I got a call from Dory saying that something is dead in the snake room. And I'm like, there's no way there's anything that's dead. But it turned out that I had a snake that regurged because I didn't follow that advice. And unfortunately, the snake had died. So, and it was an adult coastal carpet.
Dear Lord. So
that smelled pretty bad. So luckily I had Matt on standby. So
I know what Dory was asking if she could come clean those cages. Yeah. She's like, can I come do this? Because apparently you can't be trusted. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So yeah, Matt helped me out there. But it's good to have those people that are local that, so like if you or Matt or whatever go away, usually we're on trips together, but if we're not, then we always have those.
Yeah, there's a whiteboard in my Collierwood room. Off to the side, it has phone numbers.
In case of emergency.
It has in case of emergency. It has my father's number. It has yours. It has Matt's. It has Melissa's. And like it just goes. It has my cousin Shane. And it's like I kind of listed it of like these are the people you need to call. If you're one of these people, call the person below you.
Nice.
It's kind of like that way, so that if I'm ever gone, because the other thing that happened is also go over the rules. And stuff with don't just have a random friend. This be the first time that they're in your collection come by, because you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I remember coming back from Australia. I think you dropped me off at my mom's. It was like what?
Yes.
It was like 6 a.m. or some bullshit. It was.
I think so. It was early morning.
It was late early.
Yes. Late for us. Early
for the rest of the world.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to crash. And I just ended up falling asleep on the sofa in my mom's. And I woke up about an hour later to my dad calling because it was like 7 o'clock ish. And he's like, snakes are out. I'm like, what? And he goes, snakes are out everywhere. There are so many snakes out. I'm like, you need
what does that mean?
I'm like, old man, if you are fucking lying to me, I'm going to drive down there and have you seen Predator? That's what's going to happen to you. Like it is. And he's like, no, I went downstairs to get a trash bag and there's snake skins all over the place. I'm like, what do you mean all over the place? They're hanging out between the doors. Are the doors open? Yeah, snake skins are there. I'm like, so something was shedding and came out. And he's like, I'm like, all right, fine. I drove. So I started driving home, started falling asleep on the turnpike, pulled over, fell asleep for another hour at a rest stop, finished driving, came home, found out that what the person who was watching my animals was doing was when animals shed, he was closing the sheds in the doors so that I knew who shed for my records. To which I said, fucking what records? Like, it is.
What do you think? I'm a conjurer breeder?
So my father sees this and thinks that there are snakes of multiple size loose in all over places.
Oh. Well, at least it wasn't snakes loose because I came home to that.
That was that time. And then when we came back from Texas, you got to remember I came downstairs and there was glass everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck happened? He goes,
yeah.
And the re-tick had gotten out. And I'm like, so you noticed snake skins hanging out of closed doors, but you didn't notice broken glass and a 7-foot animal loose. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Wow. Yeah, I had
so in hindsight, do not hire Jim as your babysitter.
Yeah. Well, now, luckily, now you'll be married, and you know.
Oh yeah, when I went to Arizona, Melissa handled everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had
she's not afraid of snakes, so that's even an added bonus. We had pretty much set, my man.
Damn right. We had like 2 or 3. I think we had like 2 or 3 sick snakes at the time, and she was like, they got the shots, they got everything. Yeah. Again, awesome. Not the sole reason, but one of them.
But it is nice.
It's a nice one.
Very nice.
But then she's coming with me, so now I have to, you know.
Well, that's when, so if you're on your honeymoon, then you know I can always swing by or stuff like that. But you know,
that's why Tiffany and Rob are like, let's all do that giant joint trip to Australia. I'm like, who will watch your animals?
You know, it is nice though. I will tell you this, like you probably don't experience this, but I remember this. And it's like, I remember how hard it was to cram all that cleaning into one day. Yeah. But when you cut your collection way down, it's like that. You know?
I'm at that weird point where I'm like, I'm okay with the size of it now. But then and then of course I'm also in that egg season panic mode where I haven't gotten any eggs yet and I'm a failure. But
yes,
I check back with me in July and ask me how I feel about how much work I'm doing. Because usually in the summer I'm like, there are far too many animals in this house.
Yes.
But yeah.
You know, the fun thing about cleaning that way is, and I sent you a couple pictures today, but the lightning line jungles.
I hate you.
You know, I'm like, what the hell? Holy hell!
Shit, that's awesome. Yeah, and the lightning looked awesome. The freaking poison ivy boy looked awesome. I don't want to talk about the gelatin.
Oh yeah.
I don't wanna, because every time I see them, I'm like, you know what? I could do a pair of gelatins, and then I have to get that out of my head before I see you next, because all I have to do is be like, hey man.
Yeah.
I think I need some gelatins. And you'd be like, really? And here you go. Fun. And of course, everybody else is like, why don't you do it? I'm like, I have to draw a line. There has to be a line somewhere.
This is
God
the line.
Damn it.
I won't cross
This is the line. I will not do it. I will not get
snakes,
gelatins.
It's a jungle carpet that looks like a coastal with stripes.
I can't. All you have to do is be like, this one's mean. And I'll be like, fuck.
Well, the striped ones are mean. Holy hell, man.
Then why are you telling me this?
Oh, yeah. Wow. So, yeah, that's always fun to go through and, you know, but, that's the sucky thing when you're on sort of the, like a schedule, like time frame where you have to be done by a certain time. It's like you're going through and you start to get distracted and you're like, oh, look at this. Oh, I gotta take a picture of this. And then you're like, oh shit, 15 minutes went by. God damn it, get back on track. What are you doing?
It's one of those times where, you know,
water bowl.
Was it packing for shows? I would be like, man, that's a nice one. That's a cool thing. That's really awesome. Pack it up. I'm going to print out the label, do this.
Yeah.
Cool. How many slots left? Oh, that was the first one. It's been a half hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Shit.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they're turning out. For those who don't know, Lightning Line, and it cracks me up every time. I always think of that freaking Reptile Hamburg show,
the one that broke you,
where me and you were there, and it broke me of ever doing Hamburg again.
Well, he was like, the dude was like, well, what's the difference between that and those over there? And he points at like outback reptiles, and it's
Yeah.
like lots, dude.
I'm like, yeah, I had a lightning line. So when I originally bought them, I bought 2.1. And the reason is because I had that skunk flower female from
yep.
Justin that was a female. So the group really at the time I was looking just to make striped jungles. And I thought, okay, cool. Turns out that I find out later on after I bought the lightning line jungles that they're unrelated to anything in the US and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh man, this is the bonus. Then when I was sort of cutting it down and whatnot, I'm like, the one that I had wasn't really that striped. It was like one of those ones where zippery type of pattern. It would throw stripes probably if you bred it with the right female,
Yeah.
And anyway, I put it on the table at Hamburg and nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And it was, I had it there for like $300.
Right.
And, they kept saying the same thing. Well, the one over there is only $150. And I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well, and then I think I told the guy that you stopped talking to the guy because you were like, I'm done with this asshole. Like, fuck you. And then I'm like, and he's like, well, if I take this, and he had a $150 jungle, and he's like, and I breed it to that, I'm like, you'll get half dog shit. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, what? He's like, if I go over there and I get those, and they're all jungles, what makes that different? That, and I pointed his. I'm like, that's brown. And you telling, like, and what he told you the parents were highlighter yellow. That's what everybody says. Yeah. So when that thing is like a dirty yellow brownish, this thing's still going to be black and gold. Yeah. So its babies will be black and gold. So, you take those $150 snakes, breed them together, and you know what? You'll probably be able to sell their babies for $60. You take this $300 snake, you breed it to another black and yellow $300 snake, you'll still be able to sell their babies for $300.
$300 to $500.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Like,
I'm just gonna get those, man. All right, well, fine. Yeah. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but don't waste.
Right, don't waste my time. Like, you know the answer to these questions. Why does that one cost more than this? It looks better.
I don't care so much about people asking questions. That's not what irritates me with that scenario. It's like when they ask the question, they're asking you because they feel that you probably have the answer. When you give the answer, they don't like your answer because it doesn't fit into what they want it to be. So when they want you back to that whole thing. You get what you pay for, that kind of thing, right? There's a reason why that is cheap and that is not, right?
Well, they want you to say, oh, really? He's doing 150? Clearly, I'm overpriced. Take this lightning line gold animal for $100, sir.
And I get it. The average Hamburg enthusiast isn't necessarily worried about bloodline. Well, I shouldn't say that, but like I shouldn't.
The problem is that most of the people who are. I'm talking about who have a table at Hamburg, aren't wandering around. Yeah. Right. So,
but I should rephrase that. It's that either the newer keeper or the keeper that isn't really in tune with that specific species, or you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But
it is what it is. So, but yeah, you're right. That is to be able to take your time and enjoy your collection.
Oh, dude, it's the greatest.
Yeah.
I love it. I did want to so over in real quick, did you see that thing that Scott posted that was a suspected to be
the scrubby carpet hybrid,
a wild one?
I showed that to Melissa and I said, burn it.
But that happens in the wild, right?
It's nuts.
So, which is kind of crazy. So like, that makes me think that like, what if it just so happens that the ones that they bring into captivity, because they think it's, I don't know. Now everybody's going to be like, no.
What did you know? Well, luckily we don't have mainland Australian scrubs here anyway, but let's not start that fire. But I mean, it's not unheard of. What is it? Some hunter went up to Alaska and he had permits to shoot, I think it was grizzly bear. And he shoots this kind of goldish, blondish bear. And he's getting the skins and he's going back to the lower 48, and they arrest him and detain him because it looks like a polar bear, what he shot. And he's like, hey, you don't have a permit for that shit. They did DNA testing. It was a polar bear grizzly bear hybrid that he shot.
Oh, wow.
So that occurred naturally in the wild. So to say that it wouldn't naturally occur hybridization in reptiles, of course it will.
I wonder what triggers that. What would trigger that? There's no available...
Right place, right time, no available,
mates.
Females in season, the male's there. He doesn't really give a shit. Like, I don't know.
Maybe, maybe
he kicked the ass the other male polar bear that was there. I mean,
dumb snake doesn't realize that
this isn't the right one. Yeah. Or maybe the carpet. Sorry. Yeah, whoops. Oh, see, the problem is I crossed the road that was the boundary of my territory, and I never should have come over here into scrubland. I'll go back across the street. But
I guess the point is, right, that nature...
Life finds a way.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I would say... I mean, maybe the carpet was just so freakishly big, like that water python we found in Darwin. If you said that thing was caught breeding with an olive python, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. Like it's because it's now priced itself out of all the water pythons in the area.
Would you keep that if that came into captivity?
No, why?
No,
I mean it's weird. What, a water python?
No.
Horrible.
No, I'm not talking about water python. I'm talking about the scrub carpet.
The scrub carpet hybrid?
Yeah. And again, that's just speculating that it is that. Nobody knows
exactly. Nobody grabbed it and DNA tested it or anything.
But if you look at it, it's sort of like got this weird...
a freaky looking animal.
Yeah. It's very strange for sure.
But it could just
got
be
like that sort of dotted sort of inland pattern, but also like what you see in the scrubby, but yeah.
It doesn't look like a carpet, and it doesn't look like a scrubby, and yet it does both at the same time. So it's I don't know. I mean, would I keep it? Probably not, just because it doesn't fit in anything I would do. But if you were like a zoological setting, like say you were some sort of zoo in the area where this thing was found, would you keep it? Hell yeah. Why? It's because it tells a cool story. Here are carpets that can be found in the area. Here are the scrubs that can be found in the area. And every once in a while, you get one of these things. Like it is, Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's cool. I thought it was interesting that that would even happen in the wild, and didn't even realize that it did happen. But now that you bring up the grizzly bear thing, again, it's like we have this weird misconception about reptiles and in nature and stuff because I don't know. To me, I look at the grizzly bear thing and I'm like, that makes sense.
Well, and also it's because obviously, with less ice, polar bears are being pushed into areas they wouldn't necessarily have been in and are having interactions with things like grizzly bears. So for all you know, these carpets and these scrubs would never have met, but somebody built a rest stop gas station thing or one of those bathrooms that we saw at the
with meat pies and ice break.
Yeah, exactly. Or one of those overhang bathrooms that we saw that were like Erlangi or all the other places that we saw. There was just a hive for geckos and everything else. Yeah. So some man-made structure put these animals closer together or brought them into interaction with each other.
I beat myself up that I didn't pay more attention to the geckos while I was taking a piss.
They were there.
Yeah, they were.
This is how you get animals in Australia. Put a light out, bugs come. Bugs come, geckos come. Geckos come, snakes come.
Yeah.
So you just got to wait.
Circle of life.
Exactly. It's all right there.
So the last thing that I would hit on is we got a question.
Yes.
From Jake Porter. And it's cool. If you guys, I will say this, that if anybody out there has a question or whatever, and you send it to us, we'll try to definitely hold on to it till we do a me and him episode, and then we'll chat about it. I figure rather than give rather than give everybody when they message me, giving them like a long response of stuff or whatever, I always like to sort of bounce some of these things off of you because we'll have different approaches or you'll know something that I don't or whatever. And I think that it gives the listener that's asking the question a more rounded answer of things that they can try.
And to be honest, I'd rather have like a conversation about it rather than just being like, I don't know, 80 degrees next. It's like, well, all right. It's like,
So the question was from Jake Porter, and he said, "Hey man, any tips getting carpets to switch from live to frozen thawed? Having trouble with a couple of babies and juveniles."
Okay.
You want to take a shot at it first?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
I would feed live for a couple babies and juveniles. So what I've done is when they're babies and they're live feeders, keep feeding them live until they've had a couple sheds. Like don't be like they've taken 2 meals. Now I'm going to hit them with a frozen thawed until they eat it. Like just keep chucking them the food until they feel comfortable, until they go, and then start messing with them. Start with a superheated frozen thaw. We're talking like the hottest water you can get. Try to offer them that. And you might have to tease them for a little bit. And then what I would also do is tease them for a little bit and then leave it there and then close the bin. If they bite it, wrap it. Awesome. If they just kind of bite it for a little bit, cool. Just leave it there, close the drawer. Come check in a couple hours. If they haven't eaten it, pull it, throw the live in, feed them. Keep doing that until you're successful. The next thing I would do is, so it's like, say they started on live as they were babies and you went maybe a year, almost year and a half feeding them live, and you've gotten the live larger. I would put them down for winter. So, and this goes also for like if you have 2-year-olds or adults or something like that, they're on live, put them down for winter. Cycle them down, drop their temperatures, offer them no food. When they come up, offer them a frozen thawed. 9 times out of 10, they take it.
Yeah.
That goes with any animal stuck on like chicken or if they won't transition from mice to rats, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't. So really, what I do with that, for a while there, I think it was when, for some reason, when I was working with anything with Darwin blood in it, I would have to. I had an easier time getting them to take if I offered live from the gate. So I would offer a live hopper fuzzy, somewhere in that area. And they seem to sort of take that right away. But the last season I had, I don't know if it was because so I decided that one year, this is back in like 2018. I decided that year that I was just going to start with live and not even mess around. Right. Why even mess around? Just start with live, get them going so that they're good to go, and then transition them off. So I think how the easiest thing that I did is I just take like what you said, Owen. I just get a cup of hot water, like really, really hot water. Yep. I just dunk that fuzzy in there, pinky hopper. What? Well, really not a pinky, but not for.
I dunk a pinky in there, it dissolves. Oh, okay.
Yeah. A hopper, and then I sort of have like a towel that's sitting on my table or whatever, and I'll dab it on the towel real quick, and then I'll offer it.
Right.
I find that when I'm offering frozen thawed, and this is something that I didn't put in the message, but there's this like little trigger on the back. I don't know if other pythons do this or not.
Right behind the head. Yeah.
Right behind the head, right where the jaw is, like right where that neck starts. I just touch that, and it just seems like, I don't know if it's just like a reflex that they just sort of bend around and sort of,
bite down.
And then they're constricting. So they're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to eat this. Sometimes I've had them drop after that, but for the most part, if they're feeding good, that's typically my go-to. So like a warmer, I mean, because you got to think of it, right? Snakes, pythons in particular are, they have heat pits. Carpets have heat pits, so they're sort of drawn to that response. And when you're sort of offering them something, first of all, we're probably offering them something that they don't eat in the wild as babies and juveniles,
right.
But so you got that part of it, and if you got them on mice, I guess that would be a way. The way my dad used to do it back in the day is that, and I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, and I hated it and never would do it, but like doing fresh killed.
Stun it.
That seems to be a way to sort of get them to go. But and also, I think breeding season is one thing, like you drop in the temps. I think that's a good idea. And that's actually a good idea for adults. It's like, if you have, I don't know why people are funky about like, oh, my carpet only eats mice. But if it does, and you want it to eat something different, I don't have any carpets that will refuse anything.
Are you kidding? Well, listen, I have one.
Except that Tully.
I have one carpet. Mice. I have one carpet that is on mice, and it's my albino Darwin.
Yeah.
And guess what? His life is horrible because he's a male. So,
oh, jeez.
So he's a male on extra large mice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need you to get any bigger.
Right.
You're fine.
Right.
You. Like it is.
Right. 100%.
So, yeah. No, it's.
Oh, wait. You have a male pure albino Darwin?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on mice.
Okay.
He's in with that female caramel. I'm not going to go this year.
At some point.
They hate each other.
They do? Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, I don't think she wasn't really cycled, and neither was he. So it's,
right.
They're like, get the fuck out of here to each other. So
I have a proposition for you.
You need him?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
Live on air.
At some point, we'll have to, my female's not ready yet. She's not ready yet. Maybe next year, but we could do.
I have nothing here. I had to come get that female from you. I have nothing here for him. Like
See, this is where I say, okay, bring the albino. I'll make the Darwins. You take the citrus tiger head albino. You do that.
Well, we gotta figure out, like, we gotta figure the Russian thing too. So
Oh yeah. Well, they're looking. The girl's looking promising. The male just shed.
Yes.
Yes. So that's good.
Right.
She's on the heat.
I keep forgetting that I have all these animals on like breed loan. I'm sitting there. I'm like, only 4 clutches this year. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh wait, Eric's got the Russian. Dennis has got my Macklot's python. It's like, Riley has a zebra. It's like I keep going over and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, that might not be as easy this year. So yeah.
So anyway, I think certain species are probably harder, or I shouldn't say harder, pickier, fussier. I don't know what the word is. Probably
I would
because
agree.
We're not offering them the right thing. I'll tell you what, though, I did have trouble with Darwin's quail. Dude, boom, done. No problem. And it's probably because they prefer birds. Yeah,
dude. If you can go on to Rodent Pro they sell the extra small quail.
Oh, dude, is that the ones that you?
The ones that I
me?
got you? Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. Fucking love them. I love them.
They are the perfect size for a baby carpet python because they're about the size of a hopper mouse.
Yes.
I would say that, and they're not button quail. Forget the species of quail, but those are great. But my buddy Dan he and his girlfriend Stacy, they breed the button quail. And every once in a while I get the live from them, and they're the size of bumblebees, these button quail. Like, if you can find somebody who can do those, fucking awesome. But if you're doing baby pythons, those quail are perfect size.
Yes. Yes.
And it's worth buying a bag or just doing what I do. And once a year, just doing a giant order of nothing but birds, fill in that box. And then those quail will last you for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing I would potentially do is, if you're trying to get something that's feeding live onto frozen thaw, is feed it something live smaller. So say you had a baby carpet that was on live adult mice. And I'm not saying baby, I'm saying like yearlings. So say you have a yearling carpet on adult mice, feed it a hopper, live hopper. Then after it eats the live hopper, go in there
with the
frozen thawed hopper. Yeah. Because now it's queued up. It's all over the place.
Yep.
Offered another meal.
Yep.
Do that a couple of times and then go in straight with the frozen thawed.
Yeah, I have this Tully jungle. I was beating myself up on carpets and coffee. I think it was carpets and coffee, but we were talking.
You and I were talking about it the one time where you're like, I refuse to let this animal beat me. It's not going back to Rob.
Yeah. So it was here on NPR. Okay. The one thing that I sort of like remembered is just the size of the prey. And now it's doing good, but But yeah, Rob was feeding it live.
Okay.
So it's very picky about the whole frozen thawed thing.
Right.
But as long as, and sometimes here's the other thing, right? I find that I have my Cape York carpet now is the same way. Doesn't like frozen thawed.
I have two speckled hognose that are both on live. The one only wants live hoppers, and the problem is that it doesn't necessarily eat them all the time. So by the time I buy hoppers, or I buy weanling mice, and by the time I buy like 10, like right now I have 6 mice downstairs that are too large for it, because now it just kills them and leaves them. So now I have 6 live mice. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with. So
I start your own mouse colony there,
dude. If when she and I get out of this place, we'll talk, or you and I need to start talking seriously about the NPR Serpentarium.
Yeah, so, my sister's on me too about it. She wants
you.
To have she's like, what are you doing that? And then she's like, I could be the person in charge of plants. I was like, okay, we have all these people in charge of things. Okay,
dude. Somehow we have a small army already. Yeah. All we need is a place.
Yes. Yeah. The thing that holds me up with that is I don't even have the time to even research what would go into that.
When are you retiring from ShopRite next week? Do it.
Hopefully soon.
Soon.
But yeah, I don't know. Those 2 snakes for me are probably my problem snakes. That
everybody's got one in their collection, or 2 at least. That just.
And I think the thing is like, oftentimes, and this can be very frustrating, right? But I should probably count how many times. Like, so I'm thinking of the Cape York carpet, right? I'll offer it a frozen thawed. I'll give it a smaller meal. I find that smaller meals, they seem to, those picky ones will take a smaller meal rather than a normal or a large meal, right? So I'll offer it a smaller meal. And it probably takes 5 times for it to wrap until it decides it's going to eat it, right? Yeah. So like it's, I'll sit there, just be patient. It finally takes it, wraps it. You kind of slowly walk away, and then you come back in a little bit and you see that it's down there on the ground again. You start the whole process all over again.
My caramel tiger was the worst with that when she was younger.
Yeah,
she would always drop, and I could not get her onto medium rats. Because she would always take the mediums and drop them. She would only eat the smalls. And she had to hit it right on the head. Otherwise she'd drop it. I eventually got her up to size, and I bred her for the first time. When she came back after laying those eggs.
Oh, geez.
She didn't give a fuck. Every rat she sees dies and is just consumed. And she's gained more weight and more size through her breeding years than she ever did prior to. Right. And she's on large rats right now. I like to try to give them something big as they're breeding and building eggs and stuff like that, and right after the breeding season, and then kind of taper them back down to mediums before cool down, but I feed them more often. So she's taking large rats now, and it's like, yeah, all right. Like, remember when I used to have to sit here and play with this fucking thing for you? Like, it is. So sometimes, man, just putting them through their natural cycle, because now all of a sudden food is completely gone.
Yes.
And, sometimes that's the trigger, or change up what you're trying to feed. I had an M-Pen female come out of breeding season, would not eat anything, smalls, mediums, nothings. I got a package of hairless rats.
Okay.
And I thawed them out. Now, hairless rats, if anybody who's ever dealt with them, are the nastiest looking, weirdest smelling, grossest feeling thing you could possibly try to feed to your snake. And something about that smell just got her like flying out of the box to wrap and eat this thing. So really? That's another thing too, where if you're offering frozen thawed, maybe for a little bit, switch it up. Get them onto something else, frozen thawed, and then work your way back to, plain white mice.
Yeah.
100%.
So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really, that's kind of what I do. I don't know if other people have tips or tricks or whatever, and send it over and we'll share it. But if you have questions, this is why we say all the time, you can reach out to us, and then we'll add it to these shows so that
you can email us at info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com, not just about complaints. I mean, you can also ask us questions too. There are other reasons we have that. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
Nah, man, I'm good. I have a couple more things to do before this is like, unlike some people, some of us got to go to work tomorrow. It's one of those things. I got snakes that are running around downstairs they're doing that whole, I don't know, maybe I'll lay my eggs today. Maybe I fucking won't. So I got that going on, and and I got to start getting everything ready for me to go on this week.
Yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully I think everything that's already recorded will come out on time.
Cool.
You'll hear this on Tuesday. Probably for the ones that I don't think that the Aussie Herp guys recorded their show yet, but that probably won't come out until Sunday until I get back. But other than that, there's Reptile Fight Club in the barrel. There's also a Colubrid and Colubroid Radio in the barrel for Wednesday. So that is about king snakes.
Ooh.
So that should be cool.
So where are you guys going in California, and what are you guys looking for?
San Diego.
Okay. And if you go to the San Diego Zoo and find reptiles, that is cheating. You know that, right?
Yeah.
We found an Indian gharial. What? No.
I don't know. So it's going to be cool because this is it sucks that you ain't going because this is kind of
this is everything I wanted to see.
It's kind of one of those trips where we'll have a lot of the network sort of with us. So we're staying in a place in Julian, I think it is.
Okay.
Julian. So it's sort of by San Diego.
Cool.
And obviously, I would love to find San Diego Gophers, California Kings, any rattlesnake, basically at this point. There is a what do you call it? The fan-footed gecko it's Philodactylus xanthi. It's the peninsular leaf-tailed gecko, right? So it's one of I think there's 5 species of gecko in the US, Coleonyx and this one. And it's only found in this area. So I'm hoping that I can find one. We got a couple good spots to where
are you trying to hurt Nipper with his newfound passion now?
Well, so when we did Gekkado Radio, the first episode was on US geckos, but we sort of were having a hard time with lining us all up at the same time. We recorded the episode, but then we had to add in, we wanted to add in a couple of guests to sort of talk about herping for them and then to talk about keeping and breeding them. But it turns out that this peninsular leaf-tailed gecko, I keep saying tailed because I'm thinking Australia. Leaf-toed gecko.
Gecko, okay.
Yeah. So, they got really cool feet, man. Really, really, really cool toe pads. It's pretty badass. But anyway, I'm hoping that we find one so that when I come back, I can talk about it on Gekkado Radio. So that's going to be the next episode. It will be the US geckos, and that should be coming out sometime next month. We'll record that when we get back from
it's cool looking.
Trip. Yeah. And
it does have weird looking feet.
Right. It's really cool, man. Really cool. So
that is cool.
Obviously, there's other geckos in the U.S., but the species that I was talking about, they're native species to the U.S. In Florida, there's so many invasive
Florida
species.
Florida doesn't count. No, Florida does not count.
So you have that. But and obviously, probably when we get back for NPR, we'll do a trip recap, and you'll be in the seat where you're asking all the questions. I just hope we find some rattlesnakes. But I'm going to be herping with Rob, obviously. Rob Stone, Bob Rock, the purveyor of trips, if you will.
Oh, dude, you can get the red diamond rattlesnakes in California.
Yeah.
Sidewinders.
Sidewinders are a big one. Yeah.
Mojave greens.
I think we'll be in rosy boa territory too.
That would be cool too.
I would love to see one of them. That's high on the list. But yeah, a lot of cool species. I've never been to California before.
The southern speckled rattlesnake. God damn it.
Yes. So it's kind of a weird trip because
we've been in California. We nearly died at LAX.
Yeah, but I mean, like out and about, herping and all around. So yeah, who knows? By the time you hear this episode, maybe I will have found the leaf-toed gecko.
Take much video for the YouTube channel. I already yelled at Justin because he's out there taking photos, and I'm like, you take videos for the YouTube.
Yep. So we'll be Justin Julander will be with us. Rob Stone, Chuck Poland. I don't know if Chuck's there the whole time or if he's there for part of the time.
Okay.
And Rob's friend Tom will be there, and he's only there part of the time. So
he works at the zoo in Colorado, in Denver, right? Or
Denver Zoo, yeah.
He works there. He's a cool guy.
On the show way back, I think.
Oh yeah, he and I we were herping in Arizona with him. So he's a cool guy. He's a definite, like, it's cool to have that zoo connection again with him because he was pretty much right in there with that kind of stuff. Yeah, and he was excited as hell when we found the rock rattlesnakes. So yeah.
Yeah, rattlesnakes, man. I love finding rattlesnakes. It's so cool. So
it's the best thing about them is they let you know when you're getting close.
Yeah. And they're good for taking pictures, man. They're kind of like they're like a venomous chondra. They just sort of sit there.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like, yeah.
So yeah, I got it queued up to take some good video footage, and Rob's going to be on the photo detail. So he'll be taking photos. I'll be taking videos, and yeah, it should be good, man. Get a bunch of data, and looking forward to it. You know, I wish it was Australia, but it is what it is. And I'll take it. So,
I mean, I wish it was Australia too and stuff like that, but I mean, I had so much fun doing Arizona, and I had so much fun when we went to Texas and stuff like that. I really want to put together a Florida trip because I could knock out like visiting family and Florida and shit like that. I think would be fun. So
we'll have to work on that.
And if we plan it around Daytona, we can also hang out with people down there too with that. But you know,
I think I have a vacation planned that week.
Yeah, there you go.
Just because I didn't know if I was going to go or not. But the other thing we should do a herp trip in PA with Matt.
Yep.
Plus, you want to see copperheads in Delaware.
I need to because you're going to go out to California. I don't even think copperheads are out there, or if they are, like you'll find the one that's out there just because I'm not going, and you guys always find a copperhead out there. So.
Would be cool if we did, but I don't.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't know if we go that far. So yeah, well, hopefully it's a good trip, and looking forward to it. So we will. Yeah, so watch. I'll be posting up on social media and stuff as we get it. So I guess we'll close out with that, and MoreliaPythonRadio.com is the website. If you want to get in touch with us, info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com. You can check out our YouTube channel, which we're up to 720 subscribers, which is awesome. And we want to get that to 1,000. So we're trying to push for that number. We're shooting up like crazy. So it's awesome.
Cool.
We're working on more like actual video content, obviously this trip and our other trips and stuff like that. But I'm almost finished a video for the carpet stuff. And I had somebody reach out to me and they were asking about my EB Morelia YouTube channel. And I think the move that we're going to make is I'm just going to move whatever I would record for there over to the
NPR YouTube. Yeah.
So it just makes sense. I'm doing two different things, and it's just
this isn't for the show. This is just for me. It's like what?
Yes. Yeah. So obviously, if you're tuned into the show, you like carpet pythons, and if it just makes it easier for everything.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, we're working on those things. So please go over and subscribe if that's where you listen to the podcast. Surprisingly, a lot of people listen to the podcast right from the YouTube. So that's cool. least 100. I mean 100 in the first day. There's 100 listens typically within the first maybe
nice
5-6 hours, which that seems like it's pretty good. But
okay.
So what else? What am I thinking? So Patreon,
yep.
Check that out. We have the Teespring store.
Yep.
I don't know.
We got to start.
That's everything.
Once you get back from California, we're going to start hitting the ground heavy for Carpet
you gotta
Fest.
Do
and
stickers. Yes.
Yep. Stickers. Carpet Fest big thing, stickers, apparently. And then I did want to do a couple new T-shirt designs, which I might pitch the ideas and then have your sister draw up something.
Okay. Yeah.
I have ideas in my head, but I have no artistic talent.
Okay.
So we go from there.
That. Yeah.
Even if it's just the stick figure things with the quotes and word blurbs that's what I want you to do when you're on this trip herping with Rob, historian of NPR.
Yes.
I want you to tell him that he needs to start getting as many quotes in his head that he thinks are classic, not just the Simpsons versions of NPR. Like, what are the quotes that he would see on a T-shirt? And that's what we need.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay. I'm sure we have a lot of them.
I'm sure we have plenty.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure we have a lot of them. So that's all I got.
Cool. For me, you can go to rogue-reptiles.com. You can go rogue_reptiles at Instagram and rogue reptiles everywhere else. I still have a few kids kicking around here from 2021. I will be taking new pictures of everybody and putting them up again once we have some warmer weather and are clear to ship. I'm hoping that's maybe the second week in April. We'll see how it goes. And and then keep your eyeballs peeled for that for the new kids out on the website.
Awesome.
And that's all we have for everybody tonight. We'll say thank you all for listening, and we'll catch everybody back here next week for some more Morelia Python Radio. Good night.